Hello and welcome to Soul's Compass Healing. I am so glad that you decided to click on this video, joining me in this epic forest here tonight. You can subscribe, like, and comment. I love hearing from folks. I hate monologues. Doing this is like, ugh. So I'm really excited to tell you about what else I have going on. You can visit soulscompasshealing.com. There you will get the lowdown on my one-on-one evolutionary astrology counseling services, in addition to a new project and initiative that I am starting, which is evolutionary astrology study groups. So, for those who are enrolled in Timothy Halloran's Astro School, he teaches Jeffrey Wolf Green astrology that is approachable, digestible, easily able to be integrated into your own life. You don't need anybody else to read your chart for you. You can join the school, learn the archetypes, learn the techniques, learn the foundation of evolutionary astrology, and read your own life, your own evolutionary journey for yourself. And I'm telling you right now, there is no other therapy out there that provides the level of validation for each unique soul's journey that they are on than evolutionary astrology. And what Timothy has done is made it applicable and affordable and approachable for all of us if we want to really know who we are, why our life is the way that it is. There's a way. And it's not rocket science. We can all do it. And so I truly believe in that. I am so excited about taking these core fundamental teachings of evolutionary astrology and breathing life into it in a supportive group environment where we are actually integrating this material by practicing mini readings with each other. We are digesting, we are synthesizing the teachings together, and we are practicing what Jeffrey Wolf Green wanted us to do. Become astrological detectives, doing the science of evolutionary astrology, which is listening to one another, so observing the real life circumstances, and then correlating that to the birth chart, and then we have a super pinpointed, finely tuned, accurate reading of where the soul is at in their evolutionary journey, so that we can then provide feedback, validation, and what the next best steps might be on their journey. And so my intention of doing these study groups is so that we can have this practical tool in our backpack. We can carry it with us wherever we go to help not only ourselves, but also those that we want to support in our lives. All you need is a birthplace, time, name, boom. Drop the chart, listen to the person, and away we go, right? So I want to make this less daunting. I want to make it more integrated into our real lives because it's help for our real lives. And so the first study group that I'm going to be doing is starting May 25th, and that's coming right up here, the day before this new moon in Gemini. And so there are 15 spots available. If you are interested, visit the link in the description of this video, soulscompasshealing.com/learning, and there you will get all of the information that you need. It is going to be on the core evolutionary chart interpretation method, which is we're going to be diving into Pluto and the moon's nodes and how and why that is the core lens through which we view the rest of the birth chart, as well as we're going to be covering basic counseling skills, right? So we are cultivating the ability of this listening to one another, right? And actually being of a support, using evolutionary astrology as it was intended, which is to support folks on their evolutionary journeys, not to say, hey, look at me, I'm the astrologer, I know everything, let me stand on a pedestal and tell you what your life is. No, we don't do that. not in evolutionary astrology So I'm super excited. If this excites you, I invite you to enroll in Timothy's school. Join the study groups when you can. It is going to be a lot of fun and a great support. Um, I am now going to talk about the new moon that we have coming up. In Gemini, it is going to be conjunct, with Gemini's ruler, Mercury. So we have a meeting of Mercury and the moon and the sun happening in the sign of Gemini. This is a new cycle beginning in relation to information. And aren't we in the age of information, right? We are finding ourselves absolutely flooded with quote unquote information, right? Pluto retrograde in Aquarius on the internet. We are seeing the echo chambers that are within our society, how there are certain populations of people who group themselves together and only want to be reinforced by those around them. So they will only surround themselves by people who believe in the same things. And I mean, most people are like this, right? We don't want to be challenged all of the time. When we go about our lives, we don't want to always be questioned. We don't want to always be listening to a devil's advocate, right? And so there is a time and a place for that, for having the folks who are of like minds around us so that we can go deeper into discussions that really interest us. However, what's happening now, obviously, with the algorithms and everything, is this mass scale deception of reality. Okay? So we have a total inversion of truth happening. This is like easily observable. If you have one eye open, you can clearly see what is going on here. It is opposite day every day. I mean, I had this strange friend request from somebody way back from my cult days, and there was on their Facebook profile video after video of these influencers being like against wokeness, against DEI, right? Being like, oh, these people, they like women, for example, you give them the vote. The next thing they want abortion rights. Like, what are they gonna want next, right? Like, they're just gonna keep going until they have all the power, so we can't let them because they're just power hungry. And it's like, whoa, that is 100% inversion of the truth. That is 100% a projection of what they themselves are not willing to take responsibility and accountability and ownership for. And that is the fact that there are people in positions of mass privilege, the elitist class, white supremacy, the colonizers, those in government who are making fell swoops all across the globe, to wipe out anything that resembles human rights. Like, it is literally happening right before our eyes, and there are so many other distractions to look at. But if you look at what is actually happening in our legal systems, Saturn at the final degree of Pisces, wiping out, doing away with anything that may have been put in place to serve equity, equality, those who are oppressed, those who are targeted by the system. And so, as we see this happening, this is what I mean when I say I have a broken heart, and if you have a broken heart too, yeah, I see you, and let's be brokenhearted together. Because looking at what humanity does to one another is heartbreaking. It is such a heartbreaking time to be alive. It is so illuminating to look around at what is going on right now. There's a difference between an opinion and a fact, and what is going on is there are opinions being told as facts. No, we have to say no. Saturn is moving into Aries on the 24th, a couple of days before this Gemini New Moon. No one asked to come here and get a broken heart. No one asked to come here and have to be oppressed and go through struggles in order to evolve and become stronger. And yet this is where we find ourselves. So, it's time for us to stand up when we don't feel like it and say no, right? This is a natural response to what is going on. Sorry, anger. This is a natural response. Anger is a natural response to boundaries being violated. Do not demonize anger. Saturn is going into Aries and will actually be going back into Pisces later on this year and will not be entering Aries for its final time until the beginning of 2026. Right? So we are being challenged, we the people, as we have systems of government going through what I just described. We the people are being challenged to reignite the drive of what we are fighting for. And my friends, Saturn in Aries is not, woohoo, here we go, everybody, we're going to be building structures of freedom and liberation, and yay. It's like there is going to be massive challenges and massive regressions into past oppressions that we as a human species thought that we had put to bed. They are going to be rearing their ugly heads again. And it comes down to the fact that Saturn in Aries is restriction of freedoms, individuality, right? What are we seeing? We're seeing everything wanting to become monoized, monocultured, right? It's like we're all expected to look the same, talk the same, be the same, believe the same. And if you don't, then whew, you're a threat, right? And we are needing to stand up now and say no to that rhetoric before it becomes increasingly more difficult to do so. Because, my friends, we have Pluto trine this moon. What is going on is there is a massive agenda of desensitization going on. Jupiter, square the moon's nodes to be integrated through the North Node in Pisces. Pisces, one of the most enigmatic and sensitive archetypes of the zodiac. If you are sensitive, it does feel like a lot. And it may be appropriate to numb out sometimes, but not all of the time. Because the agenda we know is Aquarius, detachment, dehumanization, desensitization. And how this happens is one law gets passed that targets those who are oppressed in our society. And a couple of days later, another law gets passed, and another law, and another, and so forth. And meanwhile, there's all of this other kerfluffle happening, all of this distraction to keep us from looking at, the reality of what actually is happening. But if you look closely enough, every single attack on humanity that is happening from our governments is happening in a succession of getting more and more increasingly violent. And we cannot let that happen. We cannot become desensitized to it and say, okay, well, we let that happen 2 inches ago, so, if we let this one go, I mean, it's only 2 inches away, right? Next thing you know, we're 5 meters from where we were. And so this overwhelm of information that is the total inversion of truth, sooner or later, tragic crimes against humanity will become normalized. And I know that there are folks listening to this who are like, I know, you're preaching to the choir. And thank you. Thank you. I hope that this brings solidarity to you. And that there are folks out there, if you're listening to this and you're like, yeah, I'm with you, like, let's stand in solidarity, like, put in the comments. Like, let's build this knit community of solidarity so that when shit goes down, we actually have folks to call on who are in our corner of the tent as we all hold up our corner of the tent of humanitarianism, right? The good people are spread out all over the globe. We can't all be in one spot. Who would do all the good work, right? So we have the internet right now. That is one of the silver linings of the internet. In the age of information, of being overwhelmed with all this shit, we can contact one another. We can reach out. We can form solidarity connections. We can work on projects that are actually of practical use in the world. That is what is going to be happening. Saturn and Aries, we are going to be igniting the desire to stand up for what is right. And we're going to be working hard for it. Okay. So obviously, we can see that malignant narcissism is observable on the grand stage of politics. Lies are being taught as facts, as if their reality is the only one. Okay, so it is the awakened souls who have understood and examined the underbelly of their own reality, who have the ability to see how another's reality is formed. And this is why we have compassion for others who cannot bear to see their own reality and how destructive it is, how destructive their actions are towards others, because they themselves do not have the capacity to look at and examine what their reality is formed by, because it's too painful. And so we need people in positions of leadership who do have this skill. Like, I swear to God, that should be the, prerequisite for being a leader nowadays, is can you look at your own shit? Can you stay grounded in reality? Do you know where you came from? Do you understand that other people have different realities, there are people who are trying to survive living on the streets and not by choice, for example, right? And so broadening and diversifying our perspectives of the realities, the many different realities that exist on this planet. With Jupiter squaring the moon's nodes, we have lies being told as gospel. There is evil happening as it's like a crusadum of evil in the name of God, right? It's just completely fundamentally backwards what is happening right now. And unfortunately, this isn't the first time humanity has been through this. And so here we are again. Here we are again, and it's time to integrate this in order to resolve it. There is great creative tension to birth new expansive contributions to society. This is going to ignite within all of us a desire to do something. There is a great creative tension in realizing our own internal gifts and our own internal intellect, our own internal moral compass, by realizing that we have gifts that nobody else can see because the world doesn't have eyes to see it. The world doesn't have eyes to see genius right now, friends. And so if you are finding yourself sitting there being like, the world is on fire, and here I am as this pioneering person who has something to give, who has something to contribute, amazing. Like, again, connect with folks. Let's connect with one another and build something that is bigger than us. Right? Saturn in Aries doesn't mean go off by yourself and build your your raft or your hut in the forest and try to survive on your own. Pluto is in Aquarius. We've got to be igniting one another's passions and drives and special purposes and gifts and talents and reason for being here, so that we can actualize our work in the world, right? So that we can merge together, collaborate with one another in ways that is everyone's brilliance is upheld. And in service to humanity. That's really, really important with the North Node in Pisces. Chiron and Venus will be joining together on June 1st. And so what that signifies, again, is this theme of the bias within our society that is towards Libra, the superficiality of let's make everything nice, the response of like, oh, you and so had a conflict, well, like you guys are working it out, right? Like everything's all good, right? You guys are talking again, right? It's like it's always this bias towards maintaining friendships and family connections for decades, even though they might be so detrimental to an individual's health, right? And so what this meeting of Venus and Chiron can really be about, as it's in conjunct the South Node, is bringing up this, stirring this up from the past, this maybe long lost and forgotten remembrance of who we are as individuals. And maybe there was too much of a merging with one another, the expectations of society, right? That we always make it work with people. No, sometimes we don't. Sometimes the healthiest thing that we can do for ourselves to protect ourselves is to distance ourselves from people, to separate from people. And it is amazing how difficult that process is for us in this culture, because we have been so conditioned not to do that. And there is such a stigma around folks who do that. And I am standing here today to let y'all know, yeah, the journey is not easy. However, there is a time for necessary boundaries. We need to be taking care of our individual health. Sacrifice for the namesake of continuing a relationship is not okay. Okay, what else do we have? Mars is going to be trine Venus on the 22nd. So that's coming right up in a couple of days here. There is yeah, certainly a creative sort of like, come on baby, light my fire, kind of just ran in through my head kind of feeling, right? Like being ignited and fueled with inspiration from our relationships. That is the ideal right now, right? If we find ourselves in relationships that are draining our life force, that's something to consider looking at. What else do we have going on? I'm sure that there's plenty more. Yeah, one last thing I guess I'll say is the pendulum is going to be swinging, okay, with Saturn going back over this 0 point of the zodiac throughout the rest of this year. And we know that when we look back on even just the last century, we have seen the pendulum swing, right, between human rights being granted, human rights being taken away in various different parts of the world, right? And so this is what legitimizes the argument and the truth for the fact that initiatives such as diversity, equity, and inclusion are not power hungry, right? We understand, oppressed peoples understand that just because a right is granted in one decade does not mean that it will be there in the next. And so it is a constant fight. And it is never truly won because of the power imbalances that happen at the leadership levels. The privilege that exists to reinforce these power imbalances. That is the voice of privilege. That's what it sounds like. Scapegoating, blaming others, playing the victim. Right? We literally are seeing that right now. Colonization is alive and well. It is not a historical event. White supremacy, alive and well, not historical. People who are privileged do not know this reality of when a right is granted and taken away. So of course they cannot understand it. This is a complete shadow projection happening. And so with that, I want to leave y'all off with a note of encouragement that we do have the map, right? We do have the map of what is going on for humanity that each of us can read in order to be supportive to ourselves on this evolutionary journey that is a full spectrum experience, and so that we can be of service to others and ultimately humanity and something bigger than ourselves. And so if you want to learn this map, join the Astro School, join our integrative astrology study groups where we will be putting this all into practice in a supportive environment together. Thank you so much for listening, and I will speak to you again soon.